When we talk about crop fertilizer, it often comes in big tanks like this one. But most farmers already locked in their fertilizer prices for this planting season months ago. And even then, prices were higher than the year before. Now, people like the Dierks brothers are wondering what all of this is going to mean in the future.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Just outside of Long Grove.
Well, a good day for me is between 250 and 300 acres.
The Dierks brothers are finally planting their crops.
In my 32-year career of farming, I can't remember a year where we didn't plant something in April and we didn't plant anything.
But the weather-induced late start isn't the only curveball for Joe Dierks this year.
Agriculture is subject to what's going on in that part of the world. Right now, we're short of nitrogen.
Fertilizer prices are soaring after Russia, one of the world's leading exporters, invaded Ukraine.
In our operation, the cost of nitrogen has probably went up between $30 and $40 an acre. And that's just nitrogen.
Dierks says the cost of nitrogen has doubled from this time last year, while phosphorus and potash prices have jumped roughly 23%. However, the real concern is for next year.
There certainly doesn't look like there's going to be any quick end to the Ukrainian crisis, so everything's up in the air.
We have a 50% increase put into this crop. Next year's crop is what everybody is really worried about, is if it goes up 50% again.
But there's a slight silver lining. While operating costs are rising, so are profits.
$8 corn and $17 beans, so it hasn't happened very often.
Still, those prices aren't stretching as far as they used to.
We're hoping to grow a normal crop. We're hoping to be able to make some money, but 10 years ago, with the prices that we have, we would be looking at a lot more revenue per acre.
And as the war in Ukraine rages on, these farmers have a lot more than Mother Nature to contend with.
Don't worry about the farmers right now, income-wise. I think we'll be fine if we can grow a good crop.
The Dierkses say last year it cost just over $200,000 to fertilize all of their crops. This year, they estimate it's going to be $50,000 more to just do their corn. Altogether, they're looking at about a $100,000 price increase from last year, and it looks like it's only going to keep going up. In Long Grove, Shelby Kluver, WQAD News 8.
Despite the cold, this picket line
wanna have fun.
is one of the hottest places in town.
They wanna have fun.
Friday marks 1 week since IAM union members began their strike against Eaton Corporation. Without burn barrels or warming tents,
Hey, Macarena!
these workers are finding other ways to stay warm.
All day. We're here. We're ready to go.
Mixing sounds from the 80s, 90s,
Why not some NSYNC?
and 2000s.
We call it Brandy's List.
It don't matter if you're young or you're old.
There's a little something for everyone out here.
We just try to keep each other warm by dancing around.
Local 388 member Aiden Tapia says it's about making the best of a bitterly cold situation.
Oh, we're not doing girls, we're have fun.
Even when there's a difference in taste.
It's sometimes an argument, but we get through it.
Because out here, there are no burn barrels, warming tents, or even porta potties. Why? An ordinance from the city of Davenport won't allow it.
We kind of get the, the nuanced message that they're not allowed.
IAM District 6 business rep John Herrig says the unions tried contacting Davenport multiple times without much luck.
They seem to point you towards a different direction.
So instead, workers have been relying on neighboring businesses for relief.
It's a lawful strike, and we intend to remain lawful while we're on the line.
But these members say it'll take more to freeze them out.
We'll stand as long as we have to.
Yeah!
Even if it means standing up
Thank you!
and breaking it down in the cold. In Davenport, Shelby Kluver, WQAD News 8.
Joel had a lot of people out there cheering him on while he played his round of golf today, didn't he?
Yeah, you could say that. Not only did he have the pressure of playing with Lucas Glover and having his boss as the caddy, his wife, and get this, 8 children were out there on the course all day long following him.
He didn't seem nervous at all.
He's so nervous, dude.
Don't let the clubs fool you.
This is my work family here.
Because today,
A lot of family history here.
family is the name of the game.
Good ball.
On Wednesday, John Deere employee Joel Oltman got to play with the pros.
I'll get your bag, man.
With caddy service from John Deere's CEO.
Go, Joey!
A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Good job, Dad!
Made even sweeter.
Whoa.
Thanks to some special spectators.
Anthony, 22, Noah, 18, Sophia, 15, Madeline, 13, Zelly is 7, Isaac, 6, Justin's 5, and Ambrose is almost 2.
8 children, all here to cheer Dad on.
They've never followed him through 18 holes, but this is all an experience.
From one hole to another,
Everybody hold on for your life.
Mom, Teresa Oltman, carefully keeps everyone in line.
We have 2 carts in the double stroller. Do we have everybody? Is Zelbel with them?
Turn.
Letting Joel focus on his game.
Yes! he got it.
8 pairs of eyes,
Dragonfly.
mostly focused on Dad,
Wait, I think I see it.
playing on one of golf's biggest stages.
It is a lot to handle, but having all those kids just makes everything, much more fun.
Now, not all of Joel's kids like being out on the greens with him, but there are a few, including his middle son Isaac, who love playing the game. And we do have confirmation tonight. Good news, all of the Oltmans made it through all of the holes without anyone getting lost for too long. Guys.
On Friday morning, long before the rest of the community was awake, these surgical nurses walked into Galesburg Cottage Hospital. For a few, it would be for the very last time.
And you know the funny thing is, I didn't cry at all.
The tears began flowing as the nurses clocked into work, with some saying they couldn't believe what was happening. Instead of the hustle and noise of a surgical unit, Friday morning's gathering was somber, set among empty hallways and unused equipment. Roughly 12 hours before these ladies arrived at work, their surgeon had been abruptly fired, along with almost every other surgeon associated with Cottage. It's the latest in what's been months of unexplained layoffs at the hospital. From March to November of 2021, government investigators found 128 employees had been terminated. One surgical nurse, whose identity we're protecting, told News 8 they threw us away. This team was supposed to have 5 surgeries on Friday morning. But without a surgeon, none of those procedures would happen. Instead, the scheduling board sat blank and surgical beds remained empty. As the nurses gathered in the hallway, they couldn't stop crying and hugging one another, asking where each person had been able to find new employment. Many carried bags for all the personal items from their lockers and desks. At one point, the surgical carts were wheeled by one last time, the nurses telling us they would never again be used for surgery at Cottage Hospital. Downstairs, the HR department was closed, and the hospital's owners, Sanjay and Priyam Sharma, unreachable. One employee blasting the Sharmas, saying their lack of respect for people's lives, people's jobs, and our community. This is a huge, horrible thing for Galesburg. The Sharmas, who also run a hospital in Michigan, took over at Cottage in the summer of 2020. Since then, reports from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services show a chaotic, disorganized hospital. In June of 2021, one patient needed CPR, but there weren't enough nurses on staff to help. That patient eventually dying. They had cut so many people's jobs, and then they didn't think about who was going to do that person's job, said one employee. That same person telling News 8 she lost 50 pounds last year, saying, "What happened to my hospital, to my Cottage family? I was literally throwing up because I couldn't stomach what I was watching." On Friday morning, one window at Cottage had been written on by an employee, reading, "Liars, shame on the Sharmas." But for all of the tears and anxiety present at Cottage, one freshly terminated surgeon told News 8 the staff could not be robbed of their dignity. He said other doors would eventually open for his staff, because they're good and because they care. As nurse after nurse remarked, "We are Cottage strong."
This strike is going to continue after tonight's vote. According to numbers obtained from UAW members, over 9,000 union members cast a ballot today. It is an incredible turnout and really one that has mirrored all of the votes along this entire strike process. But there was one big difference between this vote and the vote for the original contract 3 weeks ago. Where that one failed by a giant margin, a 9-1 margin, this one was much closer. Again, only 45% of union union members voting yes and only 55% voting no. While this contract did make a lot of changes to the first one that a lot of union members said they wanted, changes to things like wages, retirement benefits, and health care, it apparently wasn't enough for enough workers.
Roughly 3 weeks after John Deere union members began their strike, workers filed back into union halls to vote on another contract. The first agreement Deere and the United Auto Workers negotiators reached was shot down by a 9-1 margin. But this time, union leaders said there was more of what those on strike were looking for, including a raise. This 6-year-long contract offers workers a 10% raise the first year and another 5% raise on years 3 and 5, with bonuses on the even-numbered years. Under the first contract offered before the strike, those increases would have only been 5 to 6%. And the new deal addresses another issue many members wanted fixed from the first contract: retirement. Under the second agreement, all workers are given the choice of a pension with increased monthly inputs or a 401k. And retirement bonuses would be offered to all union members, although how much would be dependent on years of service. Finally, this second offer wouldn't change the cost of health care, but would give new hires coverage after 30 days of work.
Now, once again, by voting down this contract, UAW workers for John Deere are voting to stay on strike. You can see some people here behind me in East Moline right now, and we are now 20 full days into this. You know, a lot of members I speak with are really worried about what this is going to mean, being out on the picket lines as it gets colder out here, closer to fall and winter, and also the holidays. But a lot of members who voted no tell me they had a lot of things in this contract that they actually liked, but it didn't go far enough for them. And after working through a pandemic, for a company that's reporting record-breaking profits this year, they're willing to stick it out for higher wages, better incentives, and more retirement benefits.
For the past month, Thursday nights have gotten a little busier at Maria's Pizza.
It's gonna be sausage, pepperoni.
The crew is busy making dozens of pizzas, all headed out to the John Deere picket lines.
I want to help out as much as I can.
Co-owner Valora Ira opened Maria's with her husband, Yuriam, back in 2017. When the strike began, they immediately wanted to help.
It's cold outside, you know. They have kids, wives, some can't work, some can.
Now, the restaurant donates dozens of pizzas and boxes of chicken strips every week.
We've been there. Been there, done that, been through it all. I don't know, I want to do good.
Doing good, even when times are tough. And it hasn't been an easy year for Maria's. Beyond the pandemic, mandates, and now supply shortages, the restaurant had another costly shock this spring.
Our ceiling came down due to water damages from the apartment upstairs. We were closed for about 2.5 months.
But Valora says taking care of others always comes first, including her own staff.
They have a problem, you're there to help them out. They don't have money for gas. Here's $30, go fill up your gas tank.
If you mess something up, she's still gonna love you at the end of the night.
She's very much the mama bear of the whole kitchen. It's wonderful.
Even when the Iras shut down Maria's to visit family, their workers are still paid.
It's not a one-woman team or one-man team. We're a family here.
And after all the pizzas are made, they're loaded up and brought out to Harvester Works, where grateful workers wait every week.
There's always light at the end of a tunnel. It's never closed. You keep going. You keep going and you fight, and you'll get through.
Even if it takes a little hard work and determination to get there. In Kelowna, Shelby Kluver, WQAD News 8.
Here in Muscatine, there's no reason to throw old food scraps into the garbage. Instead, you can throw them out here at the Muscatine Organics Recycling Center.
This is kind of a unique situation that most people don't really have the opportunity to do.
Inside the center, you'll find rows and rows and rows of boxes, from cylinders of cheese to stacks of dog food. All of it old and expired food from across the country.
As far away as Tennessee, we found material that comes in.
That's John Cook, director of Muscatine's Water and Resource Recovery Facility. He also runs MORC, the recycling center.
We take the food that's already in a package and we remove the packaging so that the food waste can be turned into fertilizer and energy.
It's one of only 3 such facilities in the country.
We're trying to become that regional hub for people.
The food is dumped, packaging and all, into this T42 turbo machine, packed down and sent over to this machine,
where the spinning paddles actually break open that packaging.
99% of the food waste falls out the bottom, where it's sucked outside to a tanker and brought to these giant digester tanks. Once it's broken down,
it creates a natural fertilizer that we then land apply every year to farm ground.
And that extra methane is burned off instead of sitting in a landfill.
We do about 30 to 40 tons of food waste a day. So that's what would be going into the landfills if we didn't do what we were doing.
The center just opened in May 2020, but its liquid gold won a National Engineering Excellence Award this fall. An environmental trailblazer in Muscatine's own backyard.
It's a great success. Plus, we're now able to say, hey, we can get an energy program going where we're making our own renewable energy right here at the wastewater plant.
But the work isn't done out here. Eventually, this program wants to expand and start making its own electricity and natural gas. In Muscatine, Shelby Kluver, WQAD News 8.
Even as a toddler, Caleb Shamrell loved music.
Caleb would sit next to my husband at the piano and play the piano with him.
The sixth of 7 kids.
He was the fattest baby. He was a preemie, but these rolls on rolls on rolls.
He was used to making people smile.
This is newborn picture.
Even old photos show a personality as bright as his favorite color, yellow.
But he was sunshine, so it was fitting.
Caleb's mom, Janelle, spent 2 years and 364 days with her son.
He would just fall asleep in my lap and I'd have my cheek resting on his head.
But in late 2014, Caleb began to have complications after a tonsillectomy surgery. When he began coughing up blood, his parents rushed him to the emergency room.
Just prayed and prayed and prayed for over an hour, watching people run in and out.
Caleb died a week after that surgery, the day before his 3rd birthday.
We were denied.
After his death, Janelle tried to obtain his medical records, but was denied.
And that just didn't seem right.
Eventually, lawyers got involved, and years later, the Shamrells settled out of court. The details of that case and how much money was involved are confidential. But Janelle says the money isn't why she did it.
Our son was dead, and nothing was going to fix that.
Now, she's fighting against an Iowa bill that would cap similar medical lawsuits to $1 million, saying it should be up to the courts to decide how much is owed.
They're saying this is the cap that a person is worth, that a person's mobility is worth, a person's life is worth. And I find it really insulting.
There is no price that we can ever put on any loved one of any age. What the legislature is trying to tackle is to make sure, though, that we're not losing access to health care.
Republican State Representative Mike Busolo says Iowa needs to attract more healthcare workers to the state, and this cap would lower their insurance costs.
And so that out-of-state trial attorneys aren't coming here trying to get rich off of Iowa juries and Iowa injuries.
Health and safety are not about money. And I'd ask them to stop making it about money.
Nothing will bring Janelle's son back, but she says such legislation will only hurt families going through what she did.
That's him in the middle there.
And now she uses Caleb's memory to fight.
It stinks that that's the only way that I can have a family picture with all of my kids. It's to have someone paint one.
In Bettendorf, Shelby Kluver, WQAD News 8.
Absolutely. I don't know if you can see it back here. It's lit up right now and it's absolutely gorgeous. And it really was an emotional day. People were smiling, laughing, crying. I saw a lot of people with their faces just fixed upwards, just staring at those arches soaring over that ceremony. And for all of the mayors and leaders and even governor who spoke today, there was one main message. We made it. And after so long, this project is finally coming to a close.
This is iconic.
Underneath the watchful gaze of those twin arches came the culmination of nearly 25 years of work.
We made it.
It was a day decades in the making.
The most iconic river in the world. And as of this week, we have a new way to cross it.
Rows of guests, perched nearly 70 feet above the river, were joined by an array of dignitaries, including Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
We're taking a critical piece of infrastructure that has been mainly untouched since 1960 and turning it into a centerpiece that residents deserve.
While the past wasn't far from anyone's mind.
And I know tales about the tight squeeze to get across the old bridge are actually legendary.
Wednesday's ceremony focused on the future
This new bridge will serve as a vital east-west link for the Midwest.
and all the economic benefits to come.
This bridge also offers a once-in-a-generation opportunity to refresh our downtown Moline.
But for all of the pomp and circumstance, Wednesday hit a little closer to home for some.
It's not just a bridge. We helped build it.
Sonia Shepard is a carpenter, and she's worked on this project since day one.
It's emotional because when my daughter drives across here, she's going to know that her mom had a hand in building this bridge.
And after all those years of work, it all came down to the snip of a ribbon.
3.
Finally, welcoming in a brand new era.
Today is just the start of great things to come for the Quad Cities.